Hey, Martin.
Hi, Dean.
Martin, thank you for being here. Tell folks a little bit about you, and then I want to put you in a hypothetical situation. Three, actually. See how it goes.
Okay. Well, I grew up in foster care. I was
Oh,
born in London, UK, and then I came to Canada, moved all around, went to a whole bunch of different public schools and high schools. So my education was fragmented.
hmm
So I decided to start a business. I had entrepreneur mindset, and so I started my business. I was also bullied in school and in foster care, so I started karate when I was 13.
right on.
And so did the bully. But luckily, he stopped and I didn't. So now I'm a seventh degree black belt. But I integrated martial arts and martial thinking, which is about efficiency and precision, into
Right,
my company, Digital Samurai. So we're all about efficiency and precision of execution, and it's really served me well.
right. Okay, so imagine that you're starting with a new client, right? New customer, new client. Today's day one, and you're actually going to be on site. You're going to walk in at the beginning and sort of for the kickoff of this
Yeah.
engagement. Okay. When you walk into the brand new engagement like that, um, like what's a dream scenario that you'd be walking into, and what's the nightmare scenario?
Well, the nightmare scenario is that the management hasn't talked about this, hasn't sold the team on it, and they're not necessarily on board. So you have different factions that they may not like
Right.
what you're doing. They don't like change. They don't like the things that are coming, and so that makes it very, very difficult that the people aren't on board. Dream scenario is not only that they're on board, but they're excited to do this. They want change. They're hungry to learn, and they're interested in what you're doing. So it's really about the people, as it always is.
Yeah. And so, bear with me for a moment. So you've started with the engagement. Let's say you're like 90 days in. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone pulls you aside and says, like, look, like I saw the value prop for bringing you in the first place, bringing you guys in the first place. But I gotta say, like, I didn't really catch on. I didn't have my aha moment until last night of the value you're really bringing to us here. What
Yeah.
is that aha moment?
Well, it's interesting because I talk about chasing versus building, or
hmm
hunters versus farmers, and it really comes down to that having a long-term vision. Because chasing leads is what most companies do, and it's great and it works and it's short term, and you see the results and you can measure ROI
hmm
easily. But building brand, building your IP, building you as an expert, and is really the long-term strategy. And it's the only one that allows you to move away from the chasing part. But that one takes a lot more vision to understand. It requires a lot of things at the beginning that don't necessarily show ROI and perhaps don't have a lot to do with marketing. And so it's hard for some people to see that at the beginning and they don't
Right.
quite get that. But once they start to understand that, because people are coming to them because they saw a podcast like this and they're saying, "Oh, I know you and I saw you talking about this. I'd love to talk to you." So that process takes time and some people don't get it at the beginning. And it's sort of a balance between both of them. But ultimately, you want to be doing the thing that generates revenue through people coming to you rather
Right.
than having to chase people.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's move you over now. So that was the morning, and now this afternoon you're going to a big conference, right? Lots of people. You're on stage. You're one of the speakers. There's like 250 people in the audience. They've all risen up through the ranks. Tomorrow they're all starting their first ever engagement, whether that's full time or fractional, as like a CRO. Okay,
Right.
so you're like way far ahead of them, expert status. These poor suckers, they don't know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through. I'll give you like three beginnings of three sentences, and you just finish the thought and flesh it out and explain it.
All
So the
right.
first thing, you're looking at them and you're saying, "Look, uh, you're moving into your first ever job at this level with this sort of responsibility, right? This mandate and this expectation. One thing you're definitely gonna be shocked by is what."
That the most important thing isn't the tools and the shiny objects and all of that. It's the people. It's
Mm,
how to integrate the people together. What kind of people you have working with you? Are they quick starts? Are they detail people? So that's the thing I'm always surprised at. People don't really realize that it's about the people and having the right people in the right jobs at the right times. And that's by far the most important thing.
All right. And then, so still talking to them, let's talk about where they're going to go. And you say, look, a lot of the chances are wherever you go, one thing that they're not going to understand is what?
That tactics matter far more than tools.
Mm,
People get excited by the shiny objects. I was on a thread the other day in WhatsApp, and people were talking about this new AI tool and that new AI tool. And I said to them,
yeah,
instead of looking at all these new tools, go to ChatGPT and get better at prompt engineering, because that's going to give you more results. I always talk about the last mile problem. The last mile problem is the last thing you have to do. The tools are great. AI tools are great, but if you're not good at prompt engineering, you're really not going to get much out of that tool, no matter which tool you get. So tactics, how you use the tools, is infinitely more important. And that's what you should spend all your time on, not jumping from one tool to the other tool to the other tool.
right,
And whether it's ChatGPT or any of the others that are similar to that, pick one and go deep on it instead of having this broad, thin knowledge of all these different tools.
right. All right. And now, like, some intern is sort of like going, "Martin, get off the stage. You've gone over your time. Get off." They're even like, they're bringing up the music like it's the Oscars. They want you to
Yeah,
go. But by God, you're going to say one more thing to these people before they rush you off stage. And you say, look,
yeah.
if I can't leave you with any other lesson, I can leave you with this one. By day 90, when you're 90 days in, you better have learned this lesson. What is that lesson?
That people are the most important thing. That working with your team and making sure you have the right team is by far the most important thing. So you want to make sure, again, first, tactics matter more, but also who's using them, what kind of personality that person has. Are they a quick start? Do they like detail? People are always the most important part of the team, and you really want to make sure you have the right people doing the right jobs at the right time.
Right. Well, okay, good stuff. All right, so they did finally manage to push you off stage, and then you went out into the convention floor, and there's lots of booths there, lots of potential like customers, clients. Okay, so you're starting to have these conversations with clients, and you've had many or prospects. You've had many conversations with prospects in your life, right? And these are pretty typical. So you're talking to them, and it occurs to you, you know what? When I talk to these companies, they tend to overrate this and underrate that. Like, what do they overrate and what do they underrate when they're talking to possibly bringing on someone to like head up sales or or reimagine sales at their company?
I think they overrate the importance of the tools and the programs and all of the physical things that they're using, and they underrate the challenge with getting noticed, with sticking out, with being unique. In a sea of infinite supply, brand is the only differentiator that allows you to do that. So spending time on all the other stuff that you have to do is important, but building your unique brand based on creating content that is unique, and as I say, that therefore creating IP and differentiating yourself as an expert. That's the most important thing. It's also the hardest thing because,
Right.
again, the tools are free. Everyone can do all of this stuff now. So consistency is the most important thing. But if you're not talking about something unique, if you're parroting things that other people are saying, if you're not differentiating yourself sufficiently, then you're not going to stick out and nobody's going to see you.
All right, I want to ask you a follow up on that one because it's like you've wandered into my specialization. Right. I like my entire business is just focusing on the first few moments up to the first few minutes of some prospect's attention. And
Yeah.
lots of other people write lots of other stuff for a company. God bless them. I'm glad they're there. Right. But someone has to like pull someone in through the door. And that's my job.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this question. We both agree that a company needs to stand out, it needs to differentiate. And we both agree that most companies don't and won't. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, in every company, you find leadership all day long, they ignore most of the companies that try to get their attention.
Yeah.
So they know the value of getting someone's attention. So But then on the other hand, you'll go to them and say, like, we need to do this, we need to stand out, we need like clarity in our story, we need to niche down, we
Mhm.
need like, and like they don't do it. Why don't they do it? What's the psychology behind that?
I think that because so long the chasing leads way of getting business back in the day, it was the yellow
Hmm.
pages. You probably
Hmm.
remember that. I do. We had the yellow pages that they dominated. And then after that, you had banner ads, and the way of blasting your stuff out there and hoping somebody looks has been the way it's been for a long time. This ability to hyper target and streamline bespoke messages to specific audiences is new, and I don't think a lot of companies understand that. And you can be very specific when your message. My friend calls it the tip of the spear. You
Hmm.
want to have that message in the offer. If you don't lock in your message in the offer, and I know you know this, then
Hmm.
you're dead because you're losing the people. And it's even harder now to stick out because everyone has a YouTube channel and everyone can do this. So it's really critically important to have that unique message, have that hook, have that prospect get that attention. And I think, again, because so many people don't get that and they're bombarded with stuff, it's very, very difficult. You really want to stand out from the rest. And frankly, you need a professional to do that, like
Yeah.
yourself, because it's not easy. It's very difficult, in
It's
fact. And
hard
you
to
want to
get
have,
outside your own head, even if your own head is a company.
that's right. And even if you're good
Yeah.
at that stuff, I mean, I have that. I'm a detailed guy, and I know
Yeah.
my stuff very well, and that's kind of the problem. When we were looking at who to, write the copy to get people, it wasn't me because I'm way too in my head about that stuff. So it's, I guess, having the humility to understand that as a founder, a CEO, that's really the first part, and that's a know thyself thing, right? That's very
Right.
martial arts thing too. Martial arts, we call it Shoshin, which means beginner mindset. So you really have to have that understanding. And quite frankly, when we were doing our marketing and I kind of figured that out, it was somewhat humbling because I'm thinking I know all my stuff, and that's kind of the point. You're not the right person to do that. You really want to bring in outside people to be able to do that tip of the spear approach and make sure you're getting the attention you need.
Yeah. My nightmare scenario, going back to the earlier question, is I show up and somehow this company will have made it through the filters, and they say, okay, great, glad you're here, glad you're with us. Here are the things we want to say. Please help us say them. And I say, so those are important steps. They aren't really the first steps. There's a difference between figuring out what you want to say and figuring out what that reader wants to pay attention to or hear.
Yeah, yeah,
And you did you do the other part? Because that's where I have to start. I
yeah.
can say it as well as anybody can ever say it. It doesn't make any difference if no one pays attention to it.
That's right. If it's not the right thing to say,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and that again takes some humility on the part of the leader of the
Yeah.
company. Yeah.
Oh well. Okay. So this is sort of like this is either the easiest or hardest question that you and I are going to cover today. What defines sales and selling in 2025 versus 2020?
Versus 2020.
So basically today versus,
Right.
2020 pre-pandemic even.
Yeah, and pre
Right?
AI.
Pre-AI,
Um,
yeah.
I think it's the same thing it always has been, being authentic and being people, this is the age of mass customization. People
Mhm.
don't want, people talk about, I always talk about people saying, I need a website. Well, no, a website's a tool,
Yeah.
and tools don't sell stuff. You need a message, you need an offer, and maybe that means a specific landing page for this job. In fact, that's what we do these days. Typically we make a
Mhm.
specific landing page for that specific thing, and it's easy to do that these days. So while, yeah, you may need or want a website to have that, that's a secondary piece. You don't want to send everyone to a website that's generic for everyone. So you really want to have bespoke solutions. It's possible to do that now. AI makes it even easier to do that, and
Yes.
so that's what you really should be doing, and that's what people expect, because I say it's the age of mass customization. So you really need to have hyper customized, bespoke. I was using the word bespoke a few years ago. My sister said nobody knows what that means. I think everyone knows what that means now
Everybody knows
because it's
now.
used quite a bit. And so that's true. That's extremely important that you do that. It's
In
customized.
case you're watching and you don't know what bespoke means, it means custom.
That's right.
Yeah. Just
That's
that
right.
easy.
You want custom suit as opposed
Yeah.
to off the
It's a
rack, off the
bespoke
shelf.
suit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to a high-end suit place and get a really nice
Yeah.
suit, but it's not going to compare to a custom suit that they measured you and they gave you the
Right.
materials that you want and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so as you talk to clients, right, prospective clients, what's a red flag and what's a green flag for that prospect? Like the red flag is like, these guys are not a good fit for me. I'm not even sure these guys are a good fit for anybody. Like
Yeah.
what's a red flag they might throw off and what's a green flag?
Well, a red flag is we have a new logo. My cousin designed it. What do you
Yeah.
think? Or worse yet, my
Right.
wife designed it.
Yeah, you ask them like, so like, tell me about your brand. Here's our logo. My wife
Yeah,
made it.
that's right. Well, and the problem with that is his wife may or may not be any good, but they're starting from this presumption
Yeah.
that this is the way to go, and that's not the first start. Certainly, the logo isn't the first thing you should be thinking about, right? What is your brand? What is your message? What's your offer? How do you want the world to see you? Then from that, you can come up with a logo or a design, all those things. So it's someone who comes with presuppositions as to the way things should be. That's the red flag. And they're not, coachable. You tell them something, well, I'm not sure that's the best way to go, and they get upset. Big red flags. So yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want that.
So what do you look for then? What's a green flag?
A green flag is someone who's asking questions, someone who has read the stuff that I sent them. They've done some due diligence on their own, and they're coming with ideas, but they're open to suggestion. They want suggestions. They recognize that they're not the expert, and they recognize where they are the expert in those areas. And so it comes back to being open, having shoshin, beginner mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and listening, which something I've had to practice as well because I like talking. But yes, someone who's listening, someone who is coachable, someone who has shoshin, that's what you want.
All right.
It's
And then
always about the people, right?
what do you think it's going to be very different even 5 years from now, or pretty much the same now? We're in like a phase that might last for a while, or
Yeah.
things are going to be even more different 5 years from now. What do you think?
I think things are going to be way more different. You used to be able to say, I've been in technology my whole life,
Yeah.
decades, and I was very good at predicting technology changes. I predicted, I didn't
Right.
predict, I was selling targeted advertising in the 90s when it wasn't a thing. And people were looking at me weird. Now, with AI tools and AI coming, it's very hard to predict, certainly 5 years in the future, what's going on.
Right.
What I will say is that people will say AI taking the jobs. AI takes jobs if you're not any good. If you are good, AI just enhances your ability to do your job better. And I think that will be the case for the foreseeable future. When I
Yeah.
talk about people using AI tools, what I tell them is it should be human, AI, AI, human. It should start with the human, and the AI tools do best. And I think this will be for the future as well, for the foreseeable future, when you give them something first to work with, and the AI tool can then expand on that, give you ideas around that, different ways
Right.
to say it. But after that, you have to do the work. And this is something that hasn't changed in years, and I think it will always be the case. When they introduced laser printers, the Apple laser printer, some people will remember that it was
Mm-hmm.
$10,000. I remember that. Now you could do print stuff easily. Well, you got people that did print stuff with 9 fonts, 12 colors, and 15 different labels,
Yeah.
right? It looked like a dog's breakfast. It's always been the case that people will use tools that don't know how to use them. It's not about the tool, it's always about the creativity. It's the same with AI. I see people putting out content, and you can tell they just push the AI button and put it out there, and that's very lazy. AI tools will get better at that, but I do think that for the foreseeable future, you as the human still should be the final person that refines that. And it does allow you to do things faster. Again, you put in your
Yep.
idea, it comes up with some answers, and then you refine those answers. That's the way you should use them. I think that will be the case for the long term. And I think it's always the case the people that are the most creative will use the best tools in the best ways.
Right. Yeah. I was explaining to someone the other day, we were talking about sort of the future of everyone's inbox and feeds, and, and just like every kind of sort of inbound marketing kind of content.
Yeah.
And I said, content, especially the written content, but now even like video and music and all kinds of stuff. It used to cost money and time to produce it. Then the money went out of the equation. It became
Yeah.
so cheap, it's basically free.
Commoditized.
And now with AI and getting decent at writing, now the time to produce it is also gone.
Yeah.
So what you had, anytime you like drive the cost out of something and drive the time to produce it out of it, you end up with a lot of people who never would have bothered or gotten involved with it to like rush into a market and
Yeah.
start producing everything at an incredible rate. And and every email in your inbox, unless your provider is really good at sorting and deleting on its own, right? It just like floods everyone's thing, and it becomes
Yeah.
harder and harder to stand out.
Yeah.
But all that means ultimately is that the people who are really good, all right,
Yeah.
and we're already sort of at the top of their game in that field, are even more valuable because they're up against way more noise.
Exactly, exactly. And I say to
Yeah.
people that all the time. It's like AI won't take your job unless you suck.
Yeah.
And that's always been the case, whether it was again back to laser printers or processors, computers. It's always been the case. You have people that are better than. That's a really good way you said that, is the people rush in and they
Yeah.
do stuff that they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah. I mean,
And you're seeing that all over the place
you
on
see it,
YouTube
and,
and
and even through history, right?
yeah,
And even recent
exactly.
history, when email became a thing, it used to cost a lot of money to
Yeah,
like get the paper and go to the printer and hire someone to write it and design the envelope, and everything. And
yeah,
then, email drove that cost down to nothing and the
yeah,
time down to nothing. And a whole bunch of people rushed in, and you get like, spam gets invented.
yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah,
And it works. It's every sort of, now even like in the video world, right?
yeah.
YouTube on the one hand is doing really really well. YouTube has actually migrated to TV. They
Mhm.
announced last month that 2 billion people watched YouTube videos on regular TVs last month in
Yeah,
February,
yeah, I do.
right? Whereas the cost of producing a little tiny thing with your phone for TikTok, like gone down to almost nothing.
Yeah,
So you
exactly,
end
and
up with all these people rushing in.
yeah, and
But
people
the
watch
people who
more.
are really good at YouTube videos are also really good at TikTok videos, and they can move between platforms.
Exactly. Yeah, but it always comes down to the people. I think that, AI has really mixed things up a lot,
Mhm.
and it's going to take a while to settle. I'm
Yeah.
seeing, I'm seeing backlash. It's kind of frustrating sometimes because when I write comments on YouTube, I take the time to spell check, to look at the words I write, and so now people will say bot because there's no spelling mistakes in
Yeah.
it and it's articulate. People think it's a bot. And so that can be frustrating when I'm writing stuff and people, because now
I
it's the thing that AI did that a lot of people didn't realize is it's making it harder to determine whether things are fake or not.
Yeah.
But also the things that aren't fake are getting labeled as
Yeah.
fake. So that's a big problem.
I
And it's gonna take some time to shake that out.
I saw someone with a YouTube channel who was reading. One of the types of things he does is he like will read emails that viewers
Yeah.
send him, right? And he'll stop once in a while and he'll say, "I just want to like point this out again. Just because someone can like write something well, it doesn't mean that an AI wrote it."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He said
That's
like the number one thing people says, "Oh, like an AI." No, there are
yeah.
a lot of people in the world who can like write 6 paragraphs,
Yeah. Yeah.
without weird sentence construction and put in their periods and stuff. He said, "There's a
Exactly.
lot of people in the world who know how to do that. Everyone should."
Yeah. It's
Just
a weird thing, eh? When
yeah,
experts are starting to be doubted when you're an
yeah,
expert, as opposed to, oh, maybe I should. I was thinking maybe I should leave a couple spelling mistakes in here,
yeah,
so people don't think it's fake.
yeah.
But
Oh well,
that said, I do think at the end of the day that the more articulate you can be, the more on point you can be, the more on message you can be. It still is consistently going to be better because, frankly, the people that are saying you're a bot and all that, they're not really the people you want to interact with
yeah.
anyway. So yeah,
Okay, Martin, this has been fantastic, man. It's a great, great,
yeah,
great
man.
chat. By the
And I
way,
like
where in
finding
Canada
that
are
somebody
you?
is an expert and they know their stuff as well,
Yeah.
because you're gonna get more, relevant, interesting questions and answers. Your questions were very interesting.
Thank you. Where in Canada are you?
I'm in Toronto, but we of course work globally. We have
Right.
clients in the U.S. and in Europe, and so yeah, we work all over the world.
All right. Yeah, I'm originally. I'm a member of my family that doesn't still live in Canada.
Oh,
I'm the only, and so they're all still up there.
where?
Okay, so my family moved to the island of Newfoundland like
Oh yeah.
250, 260 years ago.
Well,
Yeah, they've been there a long time.
cool.
So like these days, who should be getting in touch with you? and what's the preferred way for them to do it?
Well, our target audience is companies that are either they have an in-house marketing team
Mm-hmm.
and it's not great doing what they want, or they're thinking about hiring a couple of people to do that. We act as the orchestra leader for companies. So we handle everything. We're an aggregator. And so if you're looking for a team of people, we can replace a team of marketing people and
Mm-hmm.
work with people like you, Dean, for the cost of a single senior hire.
Right.
And we're on LinkedIn. Look for Digital Samurai on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on YouTube. So, yeah.
All right. All right, Martin, this has been fantastic, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was really
Yeah.
fun. Thanks,
Oh,
Dean.
and thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye.